Youth Conference. Thank you, Dana. We have Dana, our new communications officer, in the background managing our recording. So we are indeed, as mentioned, recording this session, and we are live streaming to YouTube as well. So very welcome back to our attendees and also to those tuning in on our live stream. You're very welcome today. So without further ado, I'm delighted to kick off our session 2. So our Retina International Youth Council is all about empowerment, and this conference really is a case study of this empowerment. As the saying goes, build it and they will come. In this case, it has been give them the space and they will build it for you. Our Retina International Youth Conference pulled together this entire event in the space of 5 weeks, and we're really, really proud of everything that they've achieved to date and will go on to achieve. So to go back to our sentiment at the beginning of this meeting, that if you are interested in joining our youth council, we'd be very excited to welcome you. And to please reach out, you may email me personally at fiona.waters@retina-international.org if you'd like to learn more about joining. So Marina opened today's session with a presentation on spiritual and mental well-being of those living with IRDs. And factors that contribute to this are getting a meaningful education, purposeful work and career, and also having active social lives. This is coming closer in reach every day, thanks to the supports and enabling technologies that are coming into the market every single day. With this, I'm delighted to introduce our first speaker, Doug Goist. Doug currently serves as Program Manager of Workforce Development at NSITE, a talent management subsidiary of National Industries for the Blind, that connects employers with blind and visually impaired job-seeking professionals. Doug earned an executive certificate from the UCLA Anderson School of Management Multidimensional Leaders Institute, that's quite a mouthful, in 2014, and is certified by the US Department of Defense as a GS, Defense Procurement and Acquisition Contract Specialist. Doug is also in his 4th year as a member of Team USA, a 15-member US national blind ice hockey team, where he plays goalie. I'm really excited to welcome Doug here today, who will be speaking to us about assistive and enabling technologies. Doug, are you there?
Good morning, everyone. Fiona, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly.
Right. So first of all, I want to thank Retina International for inviting me to this conference. I do have a personal connection to the topics discussed. So to give you a brief background, I do have retinitis pigmentosa. Like a lot of you in this age range, this was this hit close to home because I was diagnosed literally right before entering university at a top US university where I had planned to pursue a career in medicine or scientific research. Essentially, I was diagnosed at the Cleveland Clinic. I am considered like many of you, a recessive genetic recipient. There was no family history of RP in my family. So I played a lot of sports, noticed peripheral vision loss, and then my diagnosis was verified at the Massachusetts Pioneer Institute, where I entered a Harvard study it was a double-blind study using nutritional supplements to see if there was a way to slow down my particular progression, which in my case just happened to be rapidly progressing. So saying that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you some technologies that are available that some based in the US, some around the world, some are free, some are fairly expensive, but just want to give you an overview and share some videos. They're short videos. I think it'll be quick. So I do apologize in advance if there are some technical difficulties because I'm going to share my sound and screen. So if it's loud, just keep your mouse or your fingers near the control knob, and I'm gonna show you some really interesting technology. I would say within the last 5-7 years, things have really progressed. When I started losing vision, there really weren't a lot of options maybe I had to use memory a lot and also a tape recording. So saying that, I'm going to turn off my video and I'm going to attempt to screen share here. And again, if you'll hear chatter in the background, that I do rely on a screen reader. So just ignore that and we'll progress from there. So let me turn this on. Turn my sound.
Started screen share, meeting controls.
Can you see that, everyone? Or Fiona?
Hi, Doug. Yes, we can see your screen where you have a selection of videos available to you to play now.
Great. So this first device, adaptive device, essentially was created by a couple out of, I believe, Texas, and they were also experiencing vision loss. And what this is, WayAround way tags. These are tags that use your phone. You attach them to your clothing and so forth for labeling purposes. It's much like a hotel room key or a credit card where you don't need the camera on your phone, your smartphone, but it will detect. You can assign customized labels to these different, for instance, buttons and stickers. So let me go over to this and I will mute myself.
Alt unmute my audio with left arrow plus Retina International to move the item, press the arrow keys. Retina International 1 WayAround underline 2 min MP4 1 WayAround enter. Windows Media Player switch to library button to access spacebar control plus 1. Alt enter.
Meet WayAround.
Hi, Doug.
It's the smart assistant for people with vision loss that gives lots of information about everyday things.
Hi, Doug.
Versatile way tags make it easy to tag.
Control S. Alt.
I think you need to update
Retina International to move the item, press the arrow keys. Retina International items 2 1 WayAround underline 2 min MP4 1 WayAround underline 2 min Windows Media Player to move the item, press meeting controls. Meeting blank. Alt audio now unmuted. PC cursor.
Sorry, Fiona, what happened there?
No worries. We're still on the screen where it's showing the selection of videos.
I got you. Let me refocus that, and I apologize. Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
Alt audio now muted. Retina International to move the item, Windows Media Player. PC cursor. Avril Daily has joined the meeting.
Meet WayAround. It's the smart assistant for people with vision loss that gives lots of information about everyday things.
Hi, Doug.
Versatile way tags make it easy to tag items around your home and office. Pair them with.
I think if we just stop sharing and then reshare.
PC cursor. Meeting controls to move the item, press the arrow keys. Meeting controls audio now unmuted. PC cursor.
See, I apologize in advance for this. So
Media Player to move the item, press the arrow keys.
Not at all.
Zoom. Volume mixer backspace. JAWS professional. Meeting controls. Meeting control. Blank. Mute currently unmuted. Audio settings. Start video left arrow plus the right arrow buttons.
So, Doug, I'm going to invite you to play the video, and once the video is playing, you can start sharing your screen again, and that should update it to the current, to the video.
Got it. All right, so let me go back.
Start video left arrow plus the right PC cursor. Video settings button drop down. Open participants panel. More options for participants. New share left arrow plus shift plus right there. Pause share left arrow plus the right. Annotate button to activate. Press space. Remote control button to activate. More button drop down. Dock to bottom button to activate. Stop share left arrow plus right arrow button to activate. Windows Media Player to move the item. Press the arrow keys.
There we go. Perfect.
Okay.
Meet WayAround. It's the smart assistant for people with vision loss that gives lots of information about everyday things. Versatile way tags make it easy to tag items around your home and office. Pair them with the powerful WayAround app for your smartphone. Just create a description and any other details that are important to you. Then tap a way tag to store them. You can store as much information as you want. Scan a way tag anytime to hear your information read back to you.
Navy, short sleeve, cotton shirt.
It's a simple way to get better, faster information about your anything and everything. Imagine the possibilities. Tag your clothes with a description plus laundering instructions. Tag your pantry items with expiration dates and nutrition information. Tag your files, your toiletries, or even the boxes in your attic using your smartphone. Way tags are about the size of a postage stamp, and they come as stickers, magnets, buttons, and clips. They don't require any batteries or charging, and there's no fussy camera required to scan them. WayAround leverages a powerful wireless technology that is affordable, secure, and easy to use. Your information is stored and automatically backed up in the cloud. We developed WayAround specifically for those with vision loss, assuring it works seamlessly with VoiceOver and other accessibility tools. The free WayAround app is available for Android and iOS. WayAround, the smart assistant that puts information at your fingertips.
Meeting controls. To move an item, press the arrow key. Stop share left arrow, plus right arrow button. Alt audio now muted. Alt audio now muted.
So thank you, Fiona, for that. So that's the WayAround tag. And so it's a great way if you are experiencing difficulty reading tags of clothing and so forth, you can customize. I'm going to go right into this next device. It's out of the UK. It's something that I had purchased quite some time ago. It's handheld. It's called the Penfriend, and this is another opportunity where you can use audio labels to label anything, frankly. I know with vision loss, a lot of us are just learning, potentially learning Braille and so forth, but this is just an interesting tool to be able to show you how you can label things accurately and efficiently. So let me go to that.
You'll just need to reshare your screen as well when you're ready. Doug, if you would like to share your screen. Hi, Doug, can you hear me? Hello, Doug. Hello, Doug. Hi, Doug, can you hear us?
Yes.
Yes, so the videos aren't playing too well, so maybe you could just speak to the technologies.
Oh, I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on with the screen share. So essentially, we have a number of videos, and I can send these into links as well. The Penfriend is an audio labeler that, like I said, you just attach these audio tags to your different documents, you can different clothing and so forth. And then where we can go into there are some amazing apps out there. One is called Microsoft Seeing AI. It is a free app available on App Store and Android as well. And what the Seeing AI app is, it's free, and it uses artificial intelligence to essentially read your documents, describe people's appearances, and so forth. And it's something that's really a game changer in the past 5 years, I would say. Again, that's Seeing AI, Seeing AI. And the next device that I was going to show you is something called OrCam, O-R-C-A-M. You may be aware of this device. It's OrCam My Eye is out of Israel, and it's a small finger-sized device you put on your glasses, and it takes pictures internally of documents, locations. It can read menus, it can read money, and so forth. It's, again, OrCam, My Eye. And then to help you navigate, there is an app. Again, these are all free, except for the OrCam. That's a device. The app is called Be My Eyes. It's international. It was invented by a gentleman from Denmark. It is a crowdsourcing app available on Android and iPhone, and that's BEMYEYES, Be My Eyes app. And what that does is it uses your camera and your audio to be able to essentially connect you with worldwide volunteers that look through your device, and they're able to help you navigate. They're able to help you identify things. It's really an amazing tool that people have. So saying that, do people have any questions on kind of where to look for some of these devices? Or Fiona, if you want to check the chat or what have you, and I can see what's happening with my share here.
No worries at all. So yes, if you have any questions for Doug, we invite you to please raise your hand. You can do so by pressing Alt-Y. So I see Roisin here shot up with the hand there. So Roisin, I'm going to invite you to unmute, and you may ask your question to Doug.
Can you hear me?
You can, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so the app that you tried showing us there with the labels in the first video, is that available on iOS like in all countries, or is it just certain countries that you can avail of the app?
Yeah, the app is available on App Store, and the labels can be they can be ordered, and they're about $1 US each. And the WayAround way tags, and you can order these.
So like, is that app available like in all countries?
It should be, yes. And you might want to check if you're using Android. I think most of us use iOS devices. So
yeah, I'm on iOS.
Sure. And
then, you know, the OrCam.
Yes.
How much would that be, or like, would you be able to like get that out on trial just to like see what it's like, or once you get it you have to like buy it?
They do have return policies. It is supported in a lot of countries and languages. It is expensive, and I have seen that people use GoFundMe or donations and so forth to be able to purchase it. And when I say expensive, you know, the lower model is in the 3,000 range, and the higher end model, which does facial recognition for friends, you can store friends' pictures and so forth, is a little over 4,000. So that's the most expensive device, essentially, that I wanted to show you. But the other tools are all free. Like the Seeing AI app is probably what most people will use because that's free. And then of course, Be My Eyes is another great option to be able to navigate. I'll give you an example. I was at a conference and people were moving chairs around, and I pulled out the app and I had somebody connect to me real time. I had a woman from Costa Rica, somebody from Africa, somebody from the United States look through my camera and help me navigate or read business cards, so forth, if that helps.
Okay.
Thank you. Good question.
Yeah, thank you for answering my questions.
Sure.
Thank you, Roisin. Great. I see Alani here has your hand up. Alani.
Hi, Doug. So something I've found quite challenging is finding a screen reader that can read PDFs. And I know lots of people say there isn't really one that works for PDFs. So I don't know if you maybe have a suggestion of one.
So the later versions of JAWS, I know it's fairly expensive, but they've created onboard optical character recognition for PDFs now. So it automatically detects it when you open a scanned PDF, and it does a pretty good job. I would say that JAWS probably does the best as far as onboard. And then, Adobe has some built-in functionality. It's a little difficult with tables, but it's getting better and better. If that helps, again, I think JAWS is probably your best selection. Microsoft does have, they have an app called Office Lens that does a pretty decent job with, if you're looking at documents through your phone. So hopefully that helps.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Anybody else with questions on just simple tools that you might be able to, rely upon, or any challenges? I'd be happy to help you with identifying those.
That's great. There's no questions that I see in our participants so far. If you would like to ask a question, we have time for just one more. If you'd like to raise your hand, you can press Alt-Y. And if not, I'm sure Doug would be very happy if we forwarded those questions on afterwards, if that was okay with you, Doug.
And what I can offer too is if there's the capability, I have these videos all as MP4 files that if I have them in a zip folder too, that if anybody would like to look at them on their own time, that would be also an option.
I think what we can do is play them during the break tomorrow, during our 15-minute comfort break. Perhaps we can play them and get them working then. I'm sure that they're full of information.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Doug, for your time. It was really great to learn about these technologies, to learn about what's out there and the new opportunities that are coming every single day.
Thank you, Fiona, and thank you everybody for your patience, and sorry about the technical difficulties. These things happen. I'm not sure
they truly do.
The technology is great, but it's not always perfect. So again, I apologize and thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. It isn't a virtual conference until you've had some technical difficulties. So
oh yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I'm going to ask now, I don't see Kirk Adams in our participants list. Kirk, if you are there, could you kindly unmute and make yourself known? No problem at all. I'll skip forward to next on our agenda, which is Karen Wolffe. Karen, are you there?
I am indeed.
You're very welcome, Karen. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Thank you for joining us here today. It's an early start for you, I understand.
It is, but I'm happy to be here and happy to be with you today.
I'm very happy to have you. So Dr. Karen Wolffe manages a private practice as a career counselor and consultant in Austin, Texas. She coordinates content for the World Blind Union's employment resources website, Project Aspiro, and consults with organizations and schools worldwide on employability skills training and transition programming for individuals with visual disabilities, and teaches distance education courses. So Karen is here to speak with us today about Project Aspiro and around career planning and education planning. So Karen, without further ado, I'm delighted to hand over to you.
My thanks to you, Fiona, for the introduction, and to you and all of the participants for joining me early morning here, but wherever you are in the world, it's my pleasure to join you today. I have put up a PowerPoint presentation for those of you who can see it, just because I know that it's much easier sometimes to follow when you have a visual cue, but I will read everything, so not to worry if you don't have it in front of you. On this first slide, I really just let you know the title, which is Project Aspiro Overview. I give you my name, Dr. Karen Wolffe, and I give you my email because, as we saw with Doug, sometimes it's tricky to get in all of the questions during a session, and I'm very happy to help any of you at any time. So please feel free to email me if you have questions following my presentation, or if you have videos you'd like to contribute to Project Aspiro now or in the future. The trick with reaching me is to use email and to spell my name correctly. So I will spell it out for you. It's all lowercase. There are no dots, no dashes, no underscores. KarenWolffe@gmail.com. Please don't hesitate. My overarching advice for all of you all the time as you approach any transition in your life, whether it's from school into work or from high school into post-secondary or from being single to being married, whatever the transition may be, I encourage you to always think at the very beginning of whatever it is you're about to move into or do about the end goal you are trying to achieve. So on the screen, I just say to you, begin with the end in sight. If you know you want to go to university, what do you need to study while you are in high school, middle school, elementary? If you know you want to move into a field of technology or engineering or music or dance or anything, what do you need to be doing now? Whom do you need to be meeting? How to make it happen? Begin with the end in sight. And then on this next screen, I give you the practical, functional approach to making it all happen. And that is research. Research, research, research. If you're not sure what to expect, find out. If you think you know what to expect, make sure. Do your research. And on this slide, I give you some very specific ideas, including, of course, Project Aspiro, which I think is one of the outstanding websites available online, particularly for people who are blind or have vision impairment, who are in the process of trying to decide what they want to be when they grow up, how to make success in their lives, et cetera, et cetera. So Project Aspiro has some wonderful stories about blindness and visual impairment and how to do the things you want to do, as well as content. But I also remind you that on YouTube alone, you can see some wonderful videos. Many blind and low vision people are putting up videos that you may find of interest, and you may want to add some of your own. But I always encourage you to start and end with Project Aspiro. And on this slide, I give you the hyperlink, or for those of you who aren't able to see it at the moment, it's a simple www.projectaspiro, projectaspiro.com. To interview people with sight loss for information, people who have experienced something like what you are experiencing. It won't be the same, but it will be similar. are a wonderful, wonderful resource and never to be discounted. So interview those folks with sight loss and find out from them what they did, how they did it, what tools they used, etc., so that you can be as aware as them as you move forward in your career search. And then in the United States, we have 2 absolutely brilliant resources for young people to help them explore careers. And I've given you the hyperlinks on this slide. I will share my slides with anyone who is interested. They're all easily accessible, but if you have difficulty with PowerPoint, let me know and I'll send you a Word file. But you just email me and ask for it and I will send it over to you with all the hyperlinks embedded. But our Bureau of Labor Statistics in the United States has something called the Occupational Outlook Handbook, which has about 250 to 300 top of the line occupations that have lots of jobs available that are ideal for careers. And I mention it to you no matter what country you live in, because I think you would find a great deal of just good information about job duties that are involved, links to professional organizations where you might reach out to a potential mentor. It might not be someone with sight loss, but it would be someone doing that job and you could make contact. And then the second resource I've given you from BLS, or Bureau of Labor Statistics, is called the Career Outlook, which is another really fine resource with topical information. So 1 month they might be focusing on jobs just in culinary arts. Another month they might be focusing on technology jobs or other STEM kinds of careers. It's worth a look if you are interested in exploring careers. But let me tell you more about Project Aspiro per se. When you get to the home page, when you land on the home page at Project Aspiro, there will be 4 choices. And the first choice on the left, because we always run in this country from left to right, because that follows our reading in English pattern, is the option called Planning Your Career. And that offers you the most for your time, if you will, when you are in the early stages of your career planning. Choose Planning Your Career, and it will give you the following choices: living independently, learning and education, preparing for work, and working life. And if you go to working life, I encourage you to check out Ken's story. It's a wonderful story about a man up in Canada who is working as a radio producer technician, who talks not just about his current job in radio, but more importantly, in my estimation, all the other jobs he did before he got there, how he worked when he was a youngster, how he followed that work with work as a young adult and then as a mature adult. It's a fabulous story and one that I think you would enjoy. What else? Project Aspiro also offers you some assessment tools that are available for self-evaluation. The one that I would recommend to youth is called the Transition Competencies Checklist. There are checklists on self-advocacy skills, home or personal management skills, orientation and mobility skills, etc. There are also tip sheets on finding mentors, conversational skills, and improving literacy skills. The checklists and tip sheets are all free, downloadable in English or French. Those are the only 2 language options we have at the moment. Obviously, if you drop it down in English or French and you don't speak one of those languages, you can use Google Translate to translate the documents for you into your preferred language. There's also information about job search techniques and addressing employer concerns, which I think would be of interest to all of you. But most importantly, in my estimation anyway, are the posted success stories from blind and low vision people worldwide. One of my favorites is a beekeeper in Uganda who has submitted a story, but there are wonderful stories. There are stories literally from all over the world. Ireland, Japan, England, Australia, New Zealand, the United States, Canada, etc., etc., etc. Lots from Taiwan recently. So if you have any interest, I encourage you to go to the site, click on success stories, and a whole series of videos and audio interviews will pop up for you to link to. Now, I'm going to take a pause and say that if you have any need for further information, you may contact me. Again, it's KarenWolffe@gmail.com. Let me know if you'd like the PowerPoint and I'll send it over to you. And with that, I thank you for your interest and open it up for any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much, Karen. That was really, really insightful. So I'd like to invite now, if anyone in the audience has any questions, you can raise your hand using Alt and Y. Okay, so we got one via the chat there, Karen, where there was questions around, what is the most practical advice for someone when emerging from education into the career space? What would be your key piece of advice to someone embarking on that journey?
Well, I would say to you, determine what it is you want to do. Think about what career you want, what jobs you want, and then start that research. Read books, go online, find out as much as you can about the job. But then I think it really boils down to looking very closely at your personal network. Who do you know and who do they know? And do any of the people that you know or the people that they know, that broader network of extended friends, extended acquaintances, do any of them know someone who is doing the job or the career that you want to do? And then begin those, what I would call informational interviews, not asking for work, but trying to gather information about the career that you are interested in, both from those people within your network and from anyone that you know of or can find through resources like Project Aspiro, who is blind or has low vision and can give you additional information about the career, with the complement of being able to talk to you about how someone without good vision is doing that job. Make sure you have good questions, like what training would I really need? What tools would you use in your job? How long have you worked in this job? What jobs did you do before this job? What training did you get? What path might you recommend to me? Do you know of any apprenticeships or temporary work that might be available in the future that I might apply for to get into this career? Write out all your questions, write them out in print or Braille, and then go out there and start doing your interviews. And when you interview friends, acquaintances, or people you don't know but have been recommended to you, ask permission to record those interviews, ask all of your questions, and ask them, what have I forgotten to ask you? Can you tell me, what do you like the most about your job? What do you like the least about your job? Think about what you need to know. What kind of schedules do you follow? Any questions that you have, record all that information, get yourself at least 3 to 5 interviews, and then come back home, review what you've learned from the people, review what you've learned from the resources, and then begin to apply for jobs. Making sure that you're applying for jobs that are not necessarily at the top of the ladder, closer to the bottom of the ladder in the beginning, but that meet your basic requirements for salary, for schedule, for leading toward the ultimate career that you want. that would be my advice to you.
It's really great, Karen. And it's, I think, universal advice for anyone entering the job market, truly. So we have two Marinas with their hands raised. So I'll come to Marina Leite first. So Marina, over to you if you'd like to unmute.
Thank you, Fiona, and thank you all. So my question, do you hear me, right?
I hear you well, thank you.
Okay. So Dr. Karen, when it comes to find a job, we people living with a visual impairment, we face a lot of prejudice and discrimination. Once some people asked me if I was able to read, stuff like that, very simple. And I would like to hear from you, what are your tips for us to face this discrimination and this prejudice when it comes to finding a job and also to be employee and perspective in our career? How can we face this discrimination and prejudice?
Mariana, thank you very much for the question. It's one that comes up frequently, and I recognize that there is prejudice in the world around us because most people are fully sighted, and it's really that they just don't understand or know what it means to be visually impaired. And people tend to fear what they don't know. So my first piece of advice to you is always, always anticipate what they are going to be concerned about. And I mentioned when I was giving my quick little overview that employers have concerns. All sighted employers, almost all, I shouldn't say all, almost all sighted employers have 4 major concerns about hiring blind or visually impaired people. I speak to them on Project Aspiro under employer concerns, but let me tell you what they are. They're all concerned about safety. That is the number 1 concern. If you present well, if you are able to go in person, walking comfortably with or without a cane, it doesn't matter. It's just, can you walk comfortably from point A to point B, look like you are confident, manage in an environment that may have chairs or other things you got to get around. If you can portray confidence, that's the first step in resolving the safety issue. But know that employers are concerned about safety. So at some point in your introduction, you may want to say something about the fact that you love to ski, or you love to swim, or you love to take long hikes, that gives some hints that you are competent, capable, able, more like them than different. Just work it in. A little comment is all it takes to allay a lot of those safety concerns. At some point during the interview, you're going to want to ask, do you have any concerns at all with regard to safety, for example, just as an example, and let me address those for you. At which point you can say, I've worked previously without any injury. I manage my own home. I cook on an open stove. Whatever it is you think you need to say that lets them know you are safe. The second concern is always access to information. And Mariana, he may have been asking you if you can read, but he's probably really asking, how do you read without sight? Because he's closing his eyes, or she's closing her eyes and thinking, I can't see a thing. How am I supposed to read? You have to tell them, I read using Braille, or I use electronic media, speech output, Braille, large print. I have acquired all the same literacy skills that you have. Reading, writing, mathematics, listening, speaking. I can share with you how it's accomplished. Ask me any questions that you have. The third concern employers have is transportation. They can't imagine getting anywhere without being in a car. You have to say, you don't have to. It's not legal. They can't require you to say, but you need to say, I get around in the environment easily. I ride buses, trains, I take Uber or Lyft, or I have a ride service that I use. Tell them so they don't have to sit there wondering, because if they don't understand, they will appear to be prejudicial. And then the fourth issue, the fourth concern for employers, pay attention because this one is a biggie, is about productivity. They can't imagine how you're going to do as much or as well as someone without good vision if they've never met or worked with somebody who's blind, who's competent. And so you need to be able to speak to the fact that when you were in school, secondary school or post-secondary school, depending on the case, that you kept up with your peers who were all sighted. You turned in your work on time. You made good grades, A's and B's for the most part, whatever it takes to let them know that you can compete with sighted people in the same amount of time and produce the same amount of work. Then all those concerns that have come across as prejudice will dissipate. It may not all go away, but they will dissipate.
Karen, thank you so much. And to Marina as well for your question. So we have 2 more questions there, but I'm just conscious of time. And we have Kirk Adams here, who's also to present. So if it's okay with you, Karen, would you be agreeable to hanging on for the next 15 minutes to receive those questions at the end?
Sure, it's no problem for me at all.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Sure.
Kirk, we're delighted to welcome you here today. How are you?
Well, I apologize for what I'm sure caused you to rearrange your schedule. I had a series of mishaps. I won't go into it, but here I am. I was so glad to be here. Thanks, Fiona.
We're delighted to welcome you. Thank you so much for joining us. So, Kirk Adams is the President and Chief Executive Officer of the American Foundation for the Blind and is a longtime champion of people who are blind or visually impaired, and is committed to creating a more inclusive and accessible world for the more than 20 million Americans living with vision loss. So, Kirk, you're here to talk to us a bit today about interventions in the workplace, so definitely carrying on along the same theme. So I'm going to hand straight over to you without.
Thank you. Thank you. And you have about 15 minutes?
Yes.
Okay, it was lovely to hear your voice, Karen. I caught the tail end of what you were saying, which is also true. I just say amen to everything I heard you say. I don't know what you said before that, so if I repeat, so be it. So again, my name is Kirk Adams. It's Dr. Kirk Adams. I have a PhD in leadership and change, which is newly acquired. I live in Seattle, Washington. I'm totally blind. My retina is detached when I was in kindergarten. I went to a school for blind children in the state of Oregon for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, so ages 6 through 8. And I learned my blindness skills very solidly. So Braille, cane travel. Today it would be keyboarding, then it was typing on a typewriter, so that I could move into public school when I had my skills to the level where I could succeed. And I went on through public school, was always the only blind student in my schools. Graduated from college, degree in economics, Phi Beta Kappa, cum laude, lots of honors, and then I started applying for jobs. And I would send my cover letter and my resume, and I would get a phone interview, and then I would be asked to come in for the in-person interview, and I'd walk in with my white cane and my folder and my slate and stylus. And as Karen mentioned, that the employer across the desk could not imagine how I could do a job as a financial analyst. How would I get to work? How would I find the bathroom? They had no exposure to people who are blind. And in transportation and the employer attitudes always show up as number 1 or number 2 when surveys are put out about barriers to successful employment for people who are blind. And at AFB, we are a research organization, a public policy organization, a leadership development organization. We're in our 100th year, and there's lots of good stuff on our website. So I invite you to go to afb.org. And specifically, we've created some really, I think, excellent content this year for the centennial that you can find out at afb.org/100. So I was getting interviews, not getting hired. I then made the, if you have a visible disability, like I do using a cane, at some point you need to choose when to disclose your disability. And I hadn't been disclosing it. So I started doing that. I started writing my cover letter. I'm totally blind. This is how I've achieved what I've achieved. This is the technology I use. These are the skills I have. Just like Karen was mentioning, I use Braille. I use refreshable Braille. I travel independently with a cane, all that stuff. And then I wasn't even getting the phone interviews. So I've had the real world experience of being a blind job seeker who had great challenges in finding that first job. I later became an employer. I was the CEO of the Lighthouse for the Blind in Seattle, and we employed 250 people who were blind and deafblind in a variety of occupations, including aerospace machining. Now I'm at AFB. We've about 30% of our employees are blind. So I've been a blind job seeker, a blind employee, a blind employer. So, as we look at the employment situation for people who are blind compared to the general population, at least in the United States, every outcome, you could say it's half as good or twice as bad, however you want to look at it. So, only 30% or so, 35% of working age blind adults are in the workforce. That's about half of the general population. So workforce participation rate is 30% compared to 70%, somewhere in there. If you look at unemployment, and the unemployment rate is counting people who are actively out there looking for work and not finding it. So it's always twice as high for people who are blind. So if it's 4.5% for the general population, it'll be 9% for people who are blind. So those are blind people who are actively seeking work. And when we look at successful blind employment, how do blind adults thrive in employment? And it's all about thriving, and thriving means different things to different people, but we can generalize a couple things. So some things we look at starting way back when with blind children, if they are allowed to develop appropriately like their sighted brothers and sisters and neighbors, allowed to, when they're 4 years old, be on the playground and fall down and scrape the knee. Early teen years, be able to travel downtown and meet their friends, go to a movie, the things kids do. That's a great predictor of future success. And what that is tied to are expectations. So it's very important that there are high expectations held for blind kids, that you're expected to read at grade level, whether you're using Braille or magnification or audible means. If you're not able to read at speed with magnification, then I strongly advocate learning Braille. Parents, it's awesome when parents have high expectations. I did. My parents were teachers. They expected good grades. They expected us to turn out for sports. They expected us to be involved in school extracurriculars. But not every kid has that. So it's tough to ask a child to have high expectations of themselves. But to the extent that can be done, and I think it's easier these days than ever with technology, because you can find role models. You can find, if you're interested in chemistry, you can find a blind PhD in chemistry. If you're interested in archaeology, you can find a blind archaeologist. If you want to be an accountant, you can find a blind accountant. So I think intentionally finding those role models is very important. The next really big factor is tied to that. If you have high expectations of yourself and you are doing the things that people at your age do, developmentally appropriate, then you're going to develop what's called a strong sense of an internal locus of control. So an internal locus of control is also a huge predictor of success as an adult, as opposed to an external locus of control. So all it means is, the internal locus means I believe I can shape my destiny. I believe I can create the life that I want. I believe that I can decide how I proceed. I can decide how I deal with circumstances. I can decide how I'm going to adapt to the bumps in the road. And an external locus is a feeling that there's nothing I can really do. So stuff is happening, it happens to me. You know, I'll just bear it. So interestingly, I did my dissertation, and I finished this 2 years ago. It was called Journeys Through Rough Country, an ethnographic study of blind adults successfully employed in large American corporations, which is a mouthful. But what I got to do is I got to interview a bunch of blind people who self-identified as being successful, who worked for big companies and were doing well, were thriving according to their own definition in employment. And one of the strongest themes that emerged was everyone had this really strong belief in their bones of that internal locus of control, that they could create their path. And almost all of them developed that early, most in the teen years, and mostly with some really impactful experience. And a lot of them were outdoor experiences, which I just thought was really, really interesting. Like a person went on a whitewater rafting trip. It was the first time they'd been away from home, the first time they'd really been able to take risks and not be coddled by their parents. Another young lady went to a summer camp with her sighted twin sister, and they snuck out to the horse arena, and they were doing horse jumping. Another person learned how to do freestyle bicycle tricks. Another person became a rock climber. So, you know, I don't know how generalizable that is, but the people I talked to all had these wonderful transformational experiences, and many of them were tied to the outdoors. So when I was at the School for the Blind as a 6, 7, 8-year-old, we did that. We went backpacking. We did horseback riding. We spent time at the seashore, you know, exploring tide pools. We built igloos out of snow. We learned how to, as blind kids, love our bodies and what they could do, and to feel comfortable moving through space. And I think there's room for a lot more research into that area, but it seems that outdoor experiences and that locus of control and success are tied together. The last thing I'll say, well, I'll say 2 more things. Early work experience is a strong predictor. I was fortunate enough to have a job when I was 16. I was the sports editor for my high school paper, and the sports editor got to write a weekly newspaper column on high school sports for the town paper. So I kind of got that job by default. So I had a lot of things happen. I had parents who had high expectations of me. I learned blind. I was totally blind going into 1st grade, so I had to learn blindness skills. So I have very strong blindness skills. And then, you know, I had that early work experience, and I also had a lot of outdoor experiences and developed that sense of internal locus of control. But early work experience is a predictor, but I will just say that volunteer work and paid work are equally strong predictors of success. So if you are having challenges, as many young blind people do, finding paid work, volunteer work is just as vital. So I would suggest you pick something you're interested in. There's a group, there's an association for everything. So find, join, step up, volunteer to take on responsibilities, move into some leadership roles, run a committee, take on a project. That's good on the resume, and it's good for the locus of control, and it's good for your expectations of yourself. And the last thing I'll say is just a mindset about blindness, and a strengths mindset. So if you read a book, for instance, like The Talent Code, it talks about very accomplished people and how they became that way. And it's really through challenges and figuring out how to overcome challenges. So tasks that are not so easy that you're not challenged, and tasks that are not so challenging that you become overwhelmed and give up. So it's the brain develops based on your experiences. So taking on challenges and learning how to overcome them develops capacities in the brain around things like creative problem solving, resilience, grit, how to analyze and manage risks, how to work with teams of people, how to communicate, how to listen. And those are all the characteristics that employers say they want. So if you ask an employer what they want, they'll say, I want someone who solves problems, doesn't create problems. I want someone who's a creative problem solver. I want someone who's innovative. I want someone who knows how to look at a situation and analyze and manage the risk. I want someone who can work with a diverse team of people. I want someone who can listen. I want someone who can communicate. And living every day as a blind person, we have really unique opportunities to develop these skills at a level that many other people don't. And I'll close with just a little example. I had all my textbooks in Braille through high school. And then when I went to college, I wasn't getting Braille anymore. The professors would put their book list together right before the semester. I was getting some books from Recording for the Blind recorded on tape. And I was also needing to use readers. So I had a budget from my Commission for the Blind here in Washington State that I could use to hire readers at minimum wage. So I was 18 and I was interviewing people. I was hiring people. I had to fire a few people. I was billing. I was invoicing. I was paying people. So that's just a little example. My classmates were not doing that. They were not having those experiences at that age. So I just encourage you to think about blindness in the light of a developer of strengths. And that is certainly the concept that at AFB we are scaling in the employer community. We're talking to employers and pointing that out, that if they want employees with all the characteristics they're talking about, there's a group of people who are underemployed who have those characteristics. So we're working to close that gap. I welcome any of you to get in touch with me. My email address is my first initial K, my last name Adams, so KADAMS @afb.org. And please do go to the website afb.org and afb.org/100 for the awesome centennial content. And thanks so much for having me. And again, I apologize for not being on time. I hate that. Blind people are always on time. I fell down on my job.
Thank you so much, Kirk. That was a really, really great and very inspiring talk. And you made it very, very easy for me to now advertise our Retina International Youth Council once more, in it being a voluntary position and can go towards your personal and career development. So once again, please do get in touch if you'd like to join. And a huge thank you to Kirk. So we are over time, but I do see that we have a few questions. So if our panelists are amenable to staying on to take those questions, but please know that the event has now concluded officially, so you may leave if you wish.
It's 5:30 in the morning, Fiona. I don't have anything else to do, so I'm here as long as you need me.
Thank you so much. Thank you to Kirk and thank you to Karen for staying on. And I see Doug is still here as well. So I'll come to Marina Sutter first, who had messaged me with a question. Marina, if you'd like to unmute.
So I just want to say thank you. What an amazing message to share. It's so full of hope and so full of power, and that idea of that internal locus of control, it just vibes with me. So the question that I have actually, I think everyone could answer this question. So we can see through research that having a mentor is very powerful. It can help direct and predict success for people. So my question is, if you were to, say, have a job and you were new, would it be better to have a mentor inside the workplace or external? So like a long-term mentor versus a short-term in the job mentor.
It's Karen.
Go ahead, Karen. Sorry.
I was just going to say that I think, why choose between? I would have both. I think it's always to your advantage to have more people rather than fewer people on your team. And I think that it's an indicator of one's ability to communicate and negotiate and direct your own future, to pick people that you think will work well with you for the future. So I would have both. If I could only have one, I suppose that I would choose that one within the company as a priority, simply because that person would know the ins and outs of that particular company. But I think both is the answer that I would stick with, frankly. Kirk, did you want to add?
Yeah, I would say about mentors. Now, formal mentoring programs, you sign up to be a mentee, you get assigned a mentor. Sometimes it's great, often it's not. So I think what you're looking for are relationships. And what I would say is find someone who has an affinity with you, whether they're internal or external, and the more you have, the merrier, as Karen said. So it's Marina?
Yes.
So Marina, what are you interested in? Do you have thoughts for your
So
area?
Right now I'm in the process of starting my master's. My goal is to do a PhD in health sciences. I do not know exactly where, but my interest also lies within promotion, holistic health promotion and such.
So what I would do is I would use the awesome tools you have at your disposal with search engines and the network you have with the Retina Foundation, and I would find blind people who are successfully thriving in the health sciences, and I would reach out to them. Blind people.
Only blind people? Because my experience is I have a huge plethora of mentors at my disposal. I have aunties and just a lot of female figures, and I wonder, none of them have visual impairment, but I've found them to be useful touchstones. So
yeah, sure. Well, if you don't have blind mentors, I think I would place a priority on that. I think it'll be very helpful as you navigate through the world. But if I were a successful blind executive in a health sciences company, or a successful blind professor in the health sciences program, and Marina reached out to me and said, I'm pursuing my master's and I want to get a PhD in health sciences, and I'd love a chance to talk to you for half an hour and get your experiences, 99.99% of those people are going to be thrilled that you reached out to them and asked them to share, because they want to share, they want to pay forward, they want to help people. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, and Marina, it's Karen. I would just add that you can go to Project Aspiro and some of these other sites that I mentioned, including YouTube, and find blind and low vision people, but you want both. You want those people from your own network who are supporting you already and who are, as you said, touchstones, and add to them, as Kirk said, some information from the blindness community, because that will serve you well moving forward.
So much. Thank you to Marina, thank you to Karen and Kirk. So I have 2 more questions here and then we will wrap up because I am conscious we're over time. So I see Tahir Ali. Tahir, you're invited to unmute. Hello?
Hello, you hear
Hi.
me?
We do.
Thank you, Fiona, for having me. I won't take much time. I know it's out of time already, but I have a small question I want to ask that as you know that COVID hits really hard globally. So what I just want to ask from Ms. Karen and Kirk that what are the new opportunities emerging for visually impaired in this COVID crisis, and what are your thoughts and how the country, your country, and what kind of new careers are emerging for visually impaired?
Oh, this is Kirk. So first of all, there's a silver lining for blind employment because remote work and virtual work is becoming a norm, and everybody's doing it, and it's not unusual now, and the tools are much better, and there's more accessible tools. So I was talking. One of our board members is the Chief Human Resources Officer for Hewlett Packard, and I had lunch with him yesterday here in Seattle, and he was saying that only about 11% of Hewlett Packard employees are going into the office now. And they're just shifting, they're shedding their buildings, they're selling their buildings, everyone's working remotely. And we talked about careers, and he said one of the hardest jobs they consistently have been filling is HR recruiters. So becoming a recruiter seems like a very viable career path. In the States, there's a nonprofit called the Sourcing Institute that trains blind people and certifies them to be HR recruiters. Cybersecurity is another huge area. If you look at Indeed.com, there's always 27,000, 30,000 cybersecurity jobs. So that's really emerging. Internal help desk, he also talked about, and Starbucks is based here. I talked with them, and they also said HR recruiters and internal help desk people. So if you're running a Starbucks store and you have a question, you need to call somebody. So that's an example of an internal help desk. I know Cisco Systems has hired a lot of people for internal help desk. So those are 3 ideas: the internal help desk jobs, the cybersecurity jobs, and then the HR recruiting. But obviously not confined to those things. The good news is that employers now are not surprised when someone wants to work remotely or virtually. It's become the norm, so that helps blind people overcome things like transportation barriers.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, would you like me to just say a quick word here, if you don't mind? It's Karen. I would agree with everything that Kirk has said. I would add just 2 quick things. One is that the World Blind Union, with whom I work, has just completed an employment survey, international. 2,500 people responded. 62% of them were blind and visually impaired. So if any of you are interested in all those details, I'd be happy to share those with you offline. And then last but not least, I would just remind everyone that the most important thing Kirk shared with you is that these virtual work environments are much, much more accessible and open to blind and visually impaired people who have the technology skills. So make sure you have those good technology skills no matter what career, so that you can work remotely.
Thank you, Karen. And our very, very last minute will come to Melissa. How are you, Melissa?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm Melissa from Switzerland, and my current struggle is coming to a realization that as a blind woman, I learn very differently than everyone around me who's sighted. So my approach to gaining resources is more that I specialize in order to get an overview, and everyone around me gets an overview in order to specialize.
Mm-hmm.
So often I feel like I'm going against the grain in my approach to gaining information and learning my craft. So I was wondering if there was any advice into kind of come towards this kind of issue that I've found.
What is your craft, Melissa?
I'm a software engineer aspiring to be.
Mm-hmm. I don't know the specifics. The only very general, I think there's a growing awareness that people have different learning styles. I think if you're in some sort of formal training program, a classroom program, I think having the conversation with whoever's leading that program is totally legit. Before I entered my PhD program, I talked to the head of the program and let them know these are the things I'm going to need in order to be successful here. And, they're very open to all of that. I would also say that, the fact of the matter is that just like kids, the expanded core curriculum, blind kids need to learn everything sighted kids do and 9 more things. And so it takes more time. You have to work harder. That's just the fact of the matter. So, I don't know your specifics, but getting materials ahead of time in the proper format that you need, advocating for that, I didn't talk about self-advocacy skills. Mine were terrible until I was 30 years old. So learning how to advocate for what you need to make sure you have the materials on a timely basis in advance in your preferred format, I think helps a lot. I don't know if that was helpful, but I'd be happy to talk to you more, so feel free to email me if you'd like.
Oh, that's awesome.
Melissa, let me add very quickly, it's Karen, that I don't think it's as important the style you use as it is the outcome. So if your research approach works for you and you can get the job accomplished, that's what matters. And I think that the only thing to be cautious about is that comparative analyses that I think you need to do at some point with your work approach and your outcomes versus the work approach and the outcomes of your peers. If you see that there's a radical difference in the outputs, what you're getting versus what they're getting from your approach, then you need to come back in and analyze it again to see which is working better and why. What are the differences? And it's not just the approach, it's probably a lot of underlying issues that you need to analyze. So again, it's not the approach, it's the outcome. Do you achieve what you need to achieve? If you do, keep track of that over time so that if someone comes back to you and says, but you use such a different approach, it won't work for us, then you need to be able to give specific evidence of how your approach has achieved the same exact outcomes for you as the approach other people are using that's achieved for them. Make sense?
Yeah, that's a great point to make. I'll definitely take that with me.
Good.
Karen and Kirk, thank you so much for your insight. And there's really rich discussions to be had here on the topic of careers, which we will be facilitating tomorrow at our personal interest discussion rooms as well. So there'll be a really great opportunity for some peer discussions there. Thank you all so much for your generosity of time. I know we're over time, but there's just too many good questions to leave behind. So a special thank you to our presenters for this session, to Karen, to Kirk, and to Doug as well. Please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. And that brings us to a close of day 1 of our Retina International Youth Conference. Please make sure to join us again at the same time tomorrow, which is 12 CET, that's 11 a.m. Irish time, and what is it, like very, very early EST. I think we're 5 a.m. EST, I think. So without further ado, I'm happy to close the session. Just a reminder to please participate in our social media call to action. I can share the slide here again. So to share with us what gives you hope. a photo of you with something written down of what gives you hope for the future. So this is to celebrate International Youth Day. So you can use our hashtag International Youth Day, hashtag ORIYC 2021, hashtag Eye on the Future. And if you tag us, Retina_int, on that, we'll be sure to share and create a lovely collage at the end. So we're looking forward to all the things that you share with us. And that brings us to a close. Thank you all. I really look forward to our program tomorrow, where we'll have the personal interest discussion rooms. And then our final session will be on research and innovation, which will be a really great session as well. Thank you all, and goodbye.
Thanks, Fiona.
Thank you, Fiona.
Blindness is a superpower. Have a great day.
Blindness is indeed a superpower.